The massive starship floated in the darkness of space like a jewel. Lights from 1,000 windows glittered across its silver surface. Captain Tae Kim pressed his face against the small window of the transport shuttle and stared at it. The Eternal Harmony. The largest ship he had ever seen. "First time seeing a coalition flagship?" Hana Park asked from the pilot's seat. She grinned at him through the mirror. "Pretty, isn't it?" Tae nodded. His stomach felt tight with nerves. "Pretty and terrifying." "We'll be fine, Captain," Wu Che said from the back seat. The science officer adjusted his glasses and checked his data pad for the 100th time. "The treaty negotiations are just a formality. Earth has everything the coalition wants. Resources, strategic position, good trade routes." "They also think we're primitives," Tae reminded him. "Half the species out here have been traveling space for thousands of years. We've barely been off Earth for 200. Hana laughed. "So we're the new kids. Let them underestimate us. Humans are good at surprises." The shuttle docked with a soft thud. Tae straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. The door slid open with a hiss. Bright white light flooded in, making him squint. They stepped into a hallway that seemed to stretch forever. The walls glowed with soft blue light. Aliens of every shape and size moved past them. Tall ones, short ones, ones with too many arms or no arms at all. A creature made entirely of floating crystals drifted by, humming a song that made Tae's teeth ache. "This way." "Humans." A mechanical voice spoke from a floating ball of metal. It bobbed up and down in front of them. "Follow me to the greeting hall." The greeting hall was enormous. The ceiling rose so high that Tae couldn't see the top. Hundreds of aliens filled the space, all dressed in formal robes and ceremonial armor. At the far end, on a raised platform, sat the coalition leaders. Tae's eyes went straight to the center figure. Princess Alara of the Luminary Empire. She wasn't like any being he had ever seen. Her body seemed to be made of pure light, shifting between colors like a rainbow captured in glass. She had a vaguely humanoid shape, but her features were sharp and perfect, like a statue carved from crystal. A crown of white fire floated above her head. She was beautiful. She was also looking at him like he was dirt on her shoe. "The human delegation," announced the floating ball. "Captain Tae Kim of Earth, Pilot Hana Park, and Science Officer Wu Che." Tae walked forward, trying not to look as nervous as he felt. Hana and Wu followed behind him. When they reached the platform, Tae bowed in the Earth style. "Princess Alara, honored coalition leaders, we thank you for this opportunity to—" "Yes, yes." Alara's voice was like wind chimes, pleasant but cold. "The formalities are noted. Let us proceed to the banquet. I'm sure you must be hungry after your long journey." It wasn't a question. It was a dismissal. The banquet hall was even bigger than the greeting hall. Tables stretched in every direction, covered with food from a dozen different worlds. Some of it looked delicious, some of it was still moving. Tae stuck to things that looked safe. He found himself seated at the head table, unfortunately right next to Princess Alara. She hadn't spoken to him since the greeting. She spent her time talking to the other coalition leaders in languages Tae didn't understand. "Try the crystal fruit," Wu whispered from across the table. "It's actually good." Tae picked up a piece of glowing blue fruit and bit into it. Sweet juice filled his mouth. He smiled. Then everything went wrong. A servant appeared at Alara's side, holding a tray. On the tray sat a single cup made of clear crystal. It glowed with soft pink light. The servant offered it to Alara first. She took it, drank from it, then set it back on the tray. The servant turned to Tae. "For the honored guest," the servant said. Tae looked at the cup. It seemed rude to refuse. He reached out and took it. The crystal felt warm in his hand. He raised it to his lips and drank. The liquid tasted like starlight and honey. The entire hall went silent. Every alien eye turned to stare at him. Tay slowly lowered the cup. Did I do something wrong? Alara's crystalline face had somehow gone even paler. She stood up so fast her chair fell backward. You accepted? Yes? Tay set the cup down carefully. Should I not have? A murmur ran through the hall. Some aliens looked shocked. Others looked amused. One creature in the corner was making a sound that might have been laughing. Do you know what you've done? Ilara's voice shook with rage. Her body flared bright red. Do you have any idea? Princess, I apologize if I've offended. Offended? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You've just accepted the royal vessel. Do you know what that means? Tay looked at Hana and Wu. They both looked as confused as he felt. No, Princess, I don't. An old alien with 6 arms stood up from the table. He wore robes covered in medals. Captain Kim, by accepting the royal vessel after the princess drank from it, you have triggered the ancient betrothal custom of the Luminary. You have agreed to marry Princess Ilara. The silence that followed was so complete that Tay could hear his own heartbeat. What? Ilara's hands clenched into fists. Light crackled around them like lightning. This is impossible. This is unacceptable. I will not marry a human, a primitive, a lesser species. The words stung, but Tay forced himself to stay calm. Princess, I didn't know. This was an accident. Surely we can... Can what? Break a sacred custom that has stood for 10,000 years? The old alien shook his head. The only way to end this betrothal is for Captain Kim to undergo the trial of bonds. 5 challenges to prove his worth. He'll fail, Ilara said immediately. Look at him. Weak body, short lifespan, no natural abilities. He's barely more than an animal. Anger flared in Tay's chest. He stood up to face her. I may be human, Princess, but I'm no coward. If there's a trial, I'll take it. You don't understand, Ilara hissed. If you fail even one challenge, humanity will be barred from the coalition forever. Your entire species will pay for your ignorance. Tay felt his blood run cold. He looked at Hana and Wu. Hana's face was pale. Wu looked sick. Earth needed the coalition. They needed the technology, the protection, the trade. Without it, humanity would be alone in a dangerous galaxy. But if Tay refused the trial, that would dishonor Earth just as badly. He turned back to Ilara and met her glowing eyes. Then I'll have to make sure I don't fail. Ilara stared at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Very well, human. The trial of bonds will begin tomorrow. 5 challenges: combat, intellect, endurance, spirit, heart. She leaned close to him. I'm going to enjoy watching you break. Tay didn't look away. We'll see about that, Princess. The banquet ended in chaos. Aliens crowded around them, asking questions, making bets. Hana and Wu pulled Tay away and rushed him back to their quarters on the ship. Are you insane? Hana demanded as soon as the door closed. You just agreed to fight alien warriors and solve impossible puzzles and who knows what else. What choice did I have? Tay collapsed into a chair. If I refused, Earth loses everything. Wu sat down heavily. She's right, though. We're not enhanced. We don't have powers. We're just human. Tay looked at both of them, his friends, his crew. Then he smiled. Yeah, we're just human. But humans have survived worse than this. We've survived ice ages and plagues and wars and our own stupidity. We're still here. He stood up. I'm not going to let some glowing princess decide that humanity isn't worthy. Tomorrow, I show her what a human can do. Hana grinned. That's the Tay I know. Wu nodded slowly. We'll help you however we can. That night, Tay couldn't sleep. He stood at the window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, home. Billions of people who had no idea their future rested on the shoulders of one very nervous captain. He thought about Elara's words: weak, primitive, lesser. His hands curled into fists. Tomorrow, he would prove her wrong. The combat arena was a dome of transparent metal that let everyone watch from above. Tay stood in the center, looking up at thousands of alien faces pressed against the viewing windows. He could see Hana and Wu in the observation deck, their faces tight with worry. The floor beneath his feet looked like sand, but it was harder, like packed stone. Strange plants grew along the edges of the arena, their leaves glowing with purple light. The air smelled like electricity before a storm. "This is the sacred fighting ground of the Luminari," announced the floating ball that served as referee. "Captain Tae Kim will face Princess Elara's chosen champion in single combat. No weapons, no outside assistance. The fight ends when one combatant cannot continue." A door on the far side of the arena opened. Something massive stepped through. Commander Vex of the Titanborn looked like a mountain that learned to walk. He stood at least 12 feet tall, with skin that resembled dark gray stone. His arms were as thick as tree trunks. His eyes glowed red like hot coals. When he moved, Tay could hear the grinding sound of rock against rock. "Oh," Tay said quietly, "this is bad." Vex strode to the center of the arena. When he stopped in front of Tay, he blocked out the light. "I am Commander Vex. I have fought in 300 battles. I have never been defeated." His voice sounded like boulders rolling down a mountain. "You are small. This will be quick." Tay had to crane his neck to look up at him. "Nice to meet you, too." Princess Elara's voice rang out from the observation deck. "Begin!" Vex moved faster than something that big had any right to. His fist came at Tay like a wrecking ball. Tay threw himself to the side, rolling across the hard sand. The fist hit the ground where he'd been standing with a sound like thunder. It left a crater. Tay scrambled to his feet and ran. He needed time to think. Vex charged after him, each step shaking the ground. Tay dodged around the glowing plants, using them as obstacles. Vex smashed through them like they were made of paper. "Stand and fight, human!" Vex roared. "Hard pass!" Tay yelled back. He couldn't win with strength. That was obvious. Vex could probably tear him in half. But Tay had something the giant warrior didn't have. He had experience fighting dirty. Earth had been at war with itself for thousands of years. Humans learned every nasty trick in the book. They learned that honor didn't matter if you were dead. They learned to use the environment. They learned to cheat. Vex charged again. This time, Tay stood his ground. At the last second, he dropped to his knees and scooped up a handful of the hard sand. As Vex's massive hand reached for him, Tay threw the sand directly into those glowing red eyes. Vex roared in pain and surprise. He stumbled backward, pawing at his face. Tay didn't waste the opportunity. He ran at Vex and jumped, grabbing onto the giant's arm. He climbed up like it was a tree, ignoring the rough stone skin that scraped his hands. When he reached Vex's shoulder, he wrapped his legs around the thick neck and started punching at the side of the head. His fists felt like they were hitting a brick wall. Pain shot through his knuckles, but he kept hitting, again, again, again. Vex grabbed him and threw him across the arena. Tay hit the ground hard enough to knock the air from his lungs. He gasped, trying to breathe, trying to move. Everything hurt. Vex walked toward him, wiping sand from his eyes. "You fight without honor." Tay climbed to his feet, wobbling. "I fight to win." "Then you will die without honor." Vex charged again. Tay noticed something this time. The giant moved in straight lines. His attacks followed patterns, formal patterns. This wasn't a street brawl to Vex. This was a ritual. He was following rules that had been drilled into him for centuries. Tay had no such training, and that was his advantage. When Vex threw his next punch, Tay didn't dodge. He stepped inside the blow and drove his elbow into what he hoped was a knee joint. Stone scraped against stone. Vex's leg buckled slightly. There. Weak points. Every creature had them. For the next hour, Tay fought like his life depended on it. Because it did. He went for joints, eyes, anywhere that might be vulnerable. He used the arena itself, leading Vex into the walls, making him waste energy on big showy attacks that missed. He was faster. He was smarter. But Vex was so much stronger. A backhand from Vex caught Tay across the chest. He felt ribs crack. The world spun. He hit the ground and tasted blood. From the observation deck, he heard Hana scream his name. Tay forced himself to his knees, then to his feet. Blood dripped from his mouth. His left arm hung uselessly at his side. But he wasn't done. "Stay down, human," Vex said. There was almost respect in his voice now. "You have fought well. Do not throw your life away." "Not done yet," Tay gasped. He noticed something. Vex was breathing hard. The Titanborn was tired. Why would a warrior with centuries of experience be tired from fighting one human? Then it hit him. Vex never had to fight someone like this before. His opponents stood and traded blows with honor. They didn't run. They didn't use tricks. They didn't make him chase them around for 2 hours. Tay started laughing. It hurt his broken ribs, but he couldn't help it. "What is funny?" Vex demanded. "You're exhausted," Tay said. "You've never fought an opponent who wouldn't stand still." Vex's eyes narrowed. "You mock me?" "No. I'm just realizing something." Tay wiped blood from his mouth. "Humans are persistence hunters. We're built to outlast things bigger and stronger than us. We chase prey for hours, days. We don't give up." Vex charged one more time, but his movements were slower now, sloppier. Tay sidestepped and Vex stumbled past him. "We're not the strongest," Tay continued, circling the giant. "We're not the fastest, but we're stubborn. We don't know when to quit." Vex swung, missed, stumbled. "And right now, I'm betting that I can stay on my feet longer than you can." Another swing, another miss. Vex's breathing was labored now. His stone skin actually seemed to be cracking from the strain. Tay kept moving, dodging, waiting. His own body screamed in protest. He was pretty sure he had internal bleeding. His vision kept going blurry, but he stayed on his feet. Finally, after 2 hours and 17 minutes, Commander Vex of the Titanborn fell to one knee, then the other knee, then forward onto his face. The ground shook with the impact. The arena went silent. Tay stood there, swaying, barely conscious. "First challenge," he whispered. Then louder, looking up at the observation deck, at Princess Ilara's shocked face. "First challenge complete." His legs gave out. He collapsed. The last thing he saw before the darkness took him was the medical team rushing into the arena. And Princess Ilara's glowing form, standing motionless, staring down at him. When Tay woke up, he was in a medical bay. His body was wrapped in bandages and covered in devices that hummed and glowed. The pain had been reduced to a dull ache. Hana and Wu were asleep in chairs next to his bed. A doctor with blue skin and too many eyes checked his vital signs. "You are very lucky, human. 3 broken ribs, fractured arm, internal bleeding, but you will live." "How long until the next challenge?" Tay asked. The doctor's eyes widened. "You cannot be serious. You need at least 2 weeks to heal." "I'll take whatever healing you can give me," Tay said. "But the challenges won't wait. When is the next one?" "Tomorrow," said a voice from the doorway. Princess Ilara stood there, her crystalline form glowing softly in the dim light. She looked at him with an expression he couldn't read. "The trial of intellect begins tomorrow," she said quietly. "You should rest." "Did I surprise you?" Tay asked. She was silent for a moment. "You fought without honor." "I fought to win." "Yes," she said. "You did. She turned to leave, then paused. Commander Vex asked me to give you a message. He says you are the most frustrating opponent he has ever faced. From a Titan-born warrior, that is high praise. Tay smiled despite the pain. Tell him thank you. Alara left without another word. But Tay noticed something. Her glow had changed from cold blue to something warmer. Just slightly. One challenge down. 4 to go. The puzzle nexus looked like the inside of a computer's dream. Walls made of light shifted and changed colors. Mathematical equations floated in the air like fireflies. The floor was a grid that pulsed with data streams. In the center of the room sat a single chair facing a massive holographic display. Tay's ribs still ached from yesterday's fight, but the alien medicine had worked wonders. He could move without wanting to scream. That was good enough. The trial of intellect, announced the referee Ball. Captain Kim must solve the quantum paradox matrix. Most coalition geniuses require 3 to 5 days. The record is 49 hours. Princess Alara watched from behind a transparent wall. These puzzles were designed for species who think in 7 dimensions, Captain. Your 3-dimensional human brain will not be sufficient. Tay sat in the chair. The holographic display lit up in front of him. Numbers and symbols he didn't recognize swirled across it. Guess we'll find out. The first puzzle appeared. It was an equation that seemed to eat itself, numbers folding into impossible shapes. Tay stared at it. His mathematical training from the academy felt laughably inadequate. Then he remembered what Wu had told him before the trial. Don't try to outthink them. Think like a human. Tay stopped looking at the puzzle like math. He started looking at it like a story. The numbers were characters. The symbols were events. What story were they trying to tell? The equation was about balance, about things that seemed opposite, but were actually the same thing viewed from different angles, like how light was both a wave and a particle. He input his answer. The puzzle dissolved into light. A new one appeared. Hours passed. Tay's eyes burned. His head pounded. The puzzles got harder. They twisted logic into knots. They asked questions that had no right answers, only less wrong ones. But Tay had something the alien geniuses didn't. He had human intuition. Humans were pattern recognition machines. They found faces in clouds and meaning in chaos. It was how they survived when they were still living in caves. He stopped trying to solve the puzzles perfectly. Instead, he looked for patterns, shortcuts, creative solutions that bent the rules without breaking them. 20 hours in, his hands were shaking. 30 hours, and he was hallucinating numbers. At 40 hours, Wu brought him food that he couldn't taste. Ilara came to the window. You can stop, she said. This is torture. I'm fine, Tay lied. His voice was hoarse. You're dying, she said flatly. Not yet. He input another answer. Correct. How many puzzles left? 14. He laughed. It sounded a little crazy. Only 14. That's nothing. At hour 47, Tay solved the final puzzle. The entire nexus flashed green. Somewhere, alarms went off celebrating a new record. Tay tried to stand. His legs didn't work. He fell out of the chair. Someone get him out of there. Ilara's voice was sharp with something that might have been concern. The medical team pulled him from the nexus. They tried to take him to the medical bay. No, Tay said. Next challenge. What's next? The referee ball bobbed uncertainly. The trial of endurance, but you need to rest. I said what's next. Tay's vision was blurry, but his voice was firm. I'm not stopping. Alara appeared in front of him. Her crystalline face was hard to read, but her voice was soft. Why? Why push yourself like this? Because if I stop, I'll think about how much this hurts, Tay said honestly. And if I think about it, I might not start again. Better to just keep moving. She stared at him for a long moment. You're insane. I'm human. He managed a smile. Same thing. The Void Garden was a massive chamber that could simulate any environment in the known galaxy. Tay stood in the center as the referee ball explained the rules. 72 hours, no food, limited water. The environment will cycle through extreme conditions every 6 hours. You must survive. And if I don't? Tay asked. Then you die, the referee ball said simply. The trial began. The first environment was a frozen wasteland. Temperature dropped to minus 40 degrees in seconds. Ice formed on Tay's skin. His teeth chattered so hard he thought they might break. He forced himself to move. Movement created heat. He ran in place, did jumping jacks, anything to keep his blood flowing. His academy training kicked in. He'd done cold weather survival courses. This was just colder, much colder. 6 hours later, the environment shifted. Now it was a desert. Temperature soared to over 50 degrees. The air was so dry that breathing hurt. Sweat poured off him, dehydrating him quickly. Tay rationed his water. 1 sip every hour. He found a rock that provided shade and huddled under it. His lips cracked and bled. His skin burned. In the observation deck, Hana watched the monitors with growing horror. His vital signs are all over the place. How is he still conscious? Wu shook his head. Human stress response. When we're in danger, our bodies flood with adrenaline. It lets us do impossible things. He paused. For a while, but there's a limit. What's the limit? Hana asked. Wu didn't answer. The environments kept changing. Acid rain that burned his skin. Toxic gas that made him cough blood. Pressure changes that felt like his skull was being crushed, each one worse than the last. At hour 50, Tay started seeing things that weren't there. His sister Nari stood in front of him, smiling. You can rest now, she said. You've done enough. You're not real, Tai whispered. Nari's dead. Then come with me, she said. Doesn't it hurt? Aren't you tired? So tired, he admitted. His body was shutting down. He could feel it. Then stop. Tay closed his eyes. It would be so easy to just lie down, to let go. Who would blame him? He'd already done more than anyone expected, but then he thought about Earth, about Hana and Wu, about billions of people who didn't even know their fate rested on one man refusing to quit. He thought about Alara's words, weak, primitive, lesser. His eyes opened. No. The hallucination of Nari faded. Tay forced himself to stand. His legs shook. His vision was dark around the edges. But he stood. At hour 71, Tay collapsed. The medical monitors in the observation deck went crazy. Hana screamed. Doctors rushed to the door of the chamber. Ilara stopped them. Wait! Princess, he's dying! One doctor protested. I know. Her voice was strained. But look. On the floor of the Void Garden, Tay was moving, crawling, inch by inch, centimeter by centimeter, toward the finish line that marked the end of the trial. His body should have quit an hour ago. Every biological indicator said he should be unconscious, but he kept moving. Why won't he stop? Ilara whispered. Wu heard her. Because humans are too stubborn to know when to quit. We evolved to chase prey until it died of exhaustion. Sometimes we're the prey, sometimes we're the predators, but we never stop. Hour 71, minute 58. Tay's hand touched the finish line. Hour 71, minute 59. He dragged his body across it. The chamber doors burst open. Medical teams swarmed him. They hooked him to machines, injected him with healing compounds, shouted medical terms Tay didn't understand. Before they sedated him, Tay looked up at the observation window, found Alara's glowing form, smiled through blood-stained teeth. 3 down, he whispered. Then darkness took him again. When he woke, Ilara was sitting next to his bed. Not Hana or Wu. Ilara. Her crystalline form glowed softly in the dim light. "How long?" Tay asked. 12 hours, she said. "The doctor said you should have died 3 times over." "But I didn't." "No," she agreed quietly. "You didn't." She was silent for a moment. "Why do you keep going? Is your pride so great that you would die rather than admit defeat?" Tay thought about it. "It's not about pride. It's about what I represent. If I quit, what does that say about humanity? That we give up when things get hard? That we're not worth a place among the stars?" He shook his head. "I can't accept that." Ilara's glow shifted to a color he hadn't seen before, something warm and golden. "I'm beginning to understand," she said. "You don't fight for yourself. You fight for all of them." "Wouldn't you?" Tay asked. "If your entire species was judged by your actions?" "My species has never been judged," Ilara said. "We've always been considered superior, perfect. We've never had to prove ourselves." "Must be nice," Tay said with a weak smile. "Perhaps," Ilara said. "Or perhaps it has made us arrogant." She stood. "The next trial is tomorrow. The trial of spirit. It will be different from the others." "How so?" "It will test who you are," she said. "Not what you can do. There's no way to prepare for it." After she left, Tay lay in the darkness and wondered what tomorrow would bring. 3 challenges down, 2 to go. He was still alive, still fighting. That had to count for something. The soul bridge wasn't a physical place. It existed in the space between thought and reality, where consciousness touched the universe itself. Tay stood on what looked like a path made of starlight, stretching into infinity in both directions. "The trial of spirit," the referee Ball's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. "Captain Kim will walk the ethereal path. All that he is will be laid bare for the coalition to witness. There are no secrets here, no lies, only truth." In the observation area, thousands of aliens watched through devices that would let them see into Ty's mind. Every thought, every memory, every fear and hope. Hana grabbed Wu's arm. "They're going to see everything, even private memories?" "That's the point," Wu said quietly. "Most species have mental training to shield their thoughts. Humans don't. They'll see all of him." "That's not fair," Hana protested. "No," agreed a voice behind them. Princess Ilara stood there, her form glowing with an amber light. "It's not. But that is the trial." Tay took his first step on the path. Immediately, his earliest memory burst into existence around him. He was 3 years old, sitting in a shelter during the water wars. His mother held him close while explosions shook the walls. She was singing to him, trying to drown out the sounds of death outside. The coalition watched. They saw a world torn apart by thirst, cities fighting over rivers, millions dying. Ty took another step. The memory changed. He was 7. The war had ended, but food was scarce. His mother divided their rations into 3 portions. 1 for Tay, 1 for his sister Nari, and a tiny piece for herself. "Why don't you eat more, Mom?" young Tay asked. "I'm not hungry, sweetie," she lied. Then they watched as she gave her water ration to a neighbor's child who was sick. That neighbor had nothing to offer in return. She did it anyway. In the observation deck, Ilara watched silently. She had expected to see violence, war, humanity's brutal nature. Instead, she saw sacrifice, kindness in the face of annihilation. The path continued. Ty was 12, Nari was 15. They were in school, learning about the stars, about other worlds, about the possibility that humanity might one day leave Earth behind. "I want to go there," Nari said, pointing at the image of Mars. "I want to see other planets." "Then we'll go together," young Tay promised. "You and me. We'll explore the whole galaxy." Nari smiled. "Promise?" "Promise." The memory shifted. Tay was 19 now. The Mars colony disaster played out in horrific detail. A malfunction in the life support systems. 1,500 colonists dead, including Nari. The coalition watched as Ty received the news, watched him collapse, watched him scream at the unfairness of it all. His sister had made it to Mars, had achieved her dream, and died for it. They watched him attend the memorial, watched him stand among hundreds of other grieving families, and they watched him make a vow. "I won't let this be for nothing," he whispered to Nari's picture. "I'll make sure humanity reaches the stars safely. I'll make sure your death means something." Ilara felt something strange in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it. Grief. She was feeling grief for a human she had never met, for a death that happened years ago. The path showed more. Tay's years at the academy. His first assignment on a deep space vessel. The first time he saw an alien species and felt wonder instead of fear. Then came the harder memories, the mistakes he'd made, the times he'd failed. An argument with a crew member that he never got to apologize for before that crew member died in an accident. A decision that cost lives even though it saved more. The weight of command that pressed down on him every day. The coalition saw it all. The good and the bad, the noble and the selfish, the brave and the terrified. "This is what humans are," Wu said quietly to Ilara. "We're not perfect. We're broken and flawed, and we make terrible mistakes, but we keep trying to be better." The path showed the great mistake. The coalition had heard of it, but now they saw it through human eyes. The nuclear exchange that nearly ended their species. The poisoned Earth, the billions dead, and then they saw what came after. Humans digging through radioactive rubble to save strangers. Scientists working without sleep to develop decontamination procedures, communities sharing food when there wasn't enough. Humanity had stood on the edge of extinction and chose to step back. "We almost destroyed ourselves," Tay's voice echoed along the path. "We came so close to being nothing but a footnote in the galaxy's history. But we survived. We learned. We grew." The memory shifted to something more recent. Tay's first contact with the coalition. His wonder at seeing species who had achieved what humanity was still reaching for. His hope that Earth could join them. And then his fear. The fear that humanity would be rejected. That all their growth, all their struggle, would be dismissed because they came from a violent past. That they would be judged as unworthy. "I carry them all with me," Tay said, and the path showed what he meant. Every human who died in the water wars. Every colonist who perished reaching for the stars. Every person who sacrificed so that others could live. They were all in his mind, all in his heart. "Every choice I make, they're watching. Every step forward I take for them too." Ilara watched as the path revealed Tay's thoughts about her. She saw herself through his eyes, beautiful and terrifying, powerful and lonely, trapped by duty and tradition just as much as he was. She saw that he didn't hate her, even after she'd called humans primitives. He understood her. He saw that her cruelty came from fear. Fear that her perfect world might not be as superior as she'd been taught. The path showed his thoughts from the first trial, his terror facing Vex, his certainty that he would die, but also his decision to fight anyway, because dying while trying was better than living with surrender. From the second trial, his mind screaming at him to quit, to rest, to give up, and his refusal. Not because he was brave, but because he was stubborn. Because humans didn't know when to quit. From the third trial, the hallucination of his dead sister telling him to rest, the temptation to just let go, and his rejection of that peace because too many people depended on him. "You see?" Tay's voice rang out. "This is what it means to be human. We're not strong because we have powers. We're strong because we refuse to stay broken. We're not perfect because we're better than others. We're perfect in our imperfection. The path began to fade. Tay reached the end. He turned to face the observation deck, knowing they had seen everything. All his weaknesses, all his fears, all his hopes. "I am Captain Tay Kim of Earth," he said clearly. "I am flawed. I am mortal. I am human. And I am enough." Silence filled the observation deck. Thousands of aliens processed what they had seen. Many had tears in their eyes, or their species equivalent. They had witnessed something they'd never expected. Not violence or primitive rage, but the full spectrum of the human experience. Ilara stood frozen. Her crystalline form pulsed with colors she didn't know she could produce. She had seen into a human soul. She had expected darkness. Instead, she found light born from suffering. Hope built on ashes, strength forged in weakness. "The trial is complete," the referee Ball announced. "The judges will now deliberate on whether Captain Kim has passed." But Ilara barely heard it. She was remembering every moment from the path. The mother who gave her food to others, the sister who dreamed of stars, the boy who promised to make those dreams mean something, the man who carried the weight of billions and refused to break. The judges talked among themselves. Finally, the old six-armed alien stood. "Captain Kim has passed the trial of spirit. We have seen his soul. It burns with determination, compassion, and an unbreakable will. We judge him worthy." Cheers erupted from parts of the crowd. Others remained silent, still processing what they'd witnessed. Tay found himself back in the medical bay. The journey through his own mind had been exhausting in a different way than the physical trials. Hana and Wu rushed to his side. "That was intense," Hana said. "Are you okay?" "I think so," Tay said. "It's strange having everyone see inside your head." "You were amazing," Wu said. "You showed them what we really are." Later, when the others had left, Ilara came to see him. She stood in the doorway, her glow a soft purple. "I saw everything," she said quietly. "I know. Your sister, your mother, the wars, the mistakes." She moved closer. "I also saw how you see me." Tay felt his face heat up. "Yeah, sorry about that." "Don't apologize." She sat in the chair next to his bed. "You see me as a person, not a princess, not a perfect, crystalline being. A person who is lonely and scared and hiding behind a crown." "Are you?" Tay asked gently. "Yes," she admitted. It seemed to cost her something to say it. "I've lived for 300 years. I've done everything perfectly. I've never failed. And I've never felt truly alive. Why tell me this? Because you showed me your truth. It's only fair I show you mine." Her glow dimmed slightly. "Tomorrow is the final trial. The trial of heart. What does that involve? I will merge my consciousness with yours. I will experience your emotions directly. Feel what you feel." She looked at him. "And then I will judge if you possess the capacity for true partnership. If you have heart. And if I fail, then everything you've done will be for nothing." She stood to leave. "But I don't think you will fail, Tay Kim. I've seen your heart already on that path. It's the brightest thing I've ever witnessed." After she left, Tay lay awake thinking about tomorrow. 4 trials passed, 1 to go. He'd survived combat, intellect, endurance, and spirit. But this last one felt the most dangerous. Not because it could kill his body, but because Ilara would feel everything, every emotion, every truth, every feeling he had about her. And he was starting to realize that those feelings were more complicated than he'd expected. The chamber for the final trial was small and quiet. Just a simple room with 2 chairs facing each other. No audience this time, no observation deck. Just Tay and Princess Ilara. The trial of heart is different from the others, Ilara explained. Her glow was a nervous silver color. I will merge my consciousness with yours for 1 solar hour. I will feel everything you feel, every emotion, every thought, every truth you carry in your heart. And then you judge whether I pass? Tay asked. Yes. She sat down in the chair across from him. If I find your heart lacking, if I sense deception or emptiness or cruelty, then you fail. The betrothal is ended. The treaty is void. Humanity is denied entry to the coalition. No pressure, then, Tay said with a weak smile. Ilara didn't smile back. I need to warn you. Luminari experience emotions differently than humans. We feel them as gentle waves, like light touching water. But I've been researching your species. Human emotions are intense. They can be overwhelming. I'll try to keep them calm, Tay said. Don't. Ilara leaned forward. The point of this trial is truth. If you try to hide what you feel, I'll know. And that itself would be a failure. Tay nodded. Okay, truth. I can do truth. Ilara reached out her crystalline hands. Are you ready? Tay took her hands. They felt warm and smooth, like polished glass that had been sitting in sunlight. Ready? Ilara closed her eyes. Her glow intensified. And then Tay felt her consciousness touch his. It was like nothing he'd ever experienced. Suddenly there were two minds in his head. He could feel Ilara's presence, curious and cautious, exploring the landscape of his thoughts. And then the emotions hit her. Fear crashed over both of them like a wave. Tay's fear of failing, fear of letting humanity down, fear that he wasn't good enough, wasn't strong enough, wasn't worthy enough. Ilara gasped. In her 300 years, she had never felt fear this intense. It was like drowning in ice water. She wanted to pull away, but the merge held. I'm sorry, Tay said. I tried to warn you. Don't apologize, Ilara's voice echoed in his mind. Show me more. Show me everything. So he did. Hope flooded through the connection. Tay's desperate, stubborn hope that humanity could be better, that they could join the stars not as conquerors but as friends, that all the death and suffering and mistakes could lead to something beautiful. Hope burned like fire. It hurt and healed at the same time. Ilara had never felt hope like this because she had never needed to hope. Everything in her life had been certain. But humans lived in uncertainty, and their hope was forged in that darkness. Love came next. Love for his crew, for Hana and Wu who stood by him. Love for his dead sister, a wound that had never fully healed. Love for his mother who taught him kindness even when the world was cruel. Love for Earth itself, that broken, beautiful planet that refused to die. Your love is so strong it's painful, Ilara whispered. How do you bear it? We don't have a choice, Tay answered. Love is what makes us human. Without it, we're just surviving. And humans need more than survival. Grief rolled through like thunder. Grief for every person he couldn't save, every mistake that cost lives, every friend he'd lost. Humans carried their dead with them, Ilara realized. They never truly let go. And beneath it all, a loneliness that made Ilara's heart ache. Tay was surrounded by people, but the weight of command isolated him. He made decisions that affected billions, and he made them alone. Who could he talk to when the burden became too heavy? Who could understand? I understand, Ilara's thought touched his. I've been lonely too. And suddenly Tay felt her emotions flowing into him. He experienced what it was like to be Princess Ilara, born perfect, raised to rule, expected to never make mistakes, never show weakness, never be anything less than ideal. She had never been allowed to fail, never been allowed to be uncertain, never been allowed to be simply herself. They put me on a pedestal, her thoughts whispered. And I've been frozen there for 3 centuries. Perfect. And alone. Tay felt her fear too. Fear that if she showed any imperfection, her people would be disappointed. Fear that she was living a performance instead of a life. Fear that she would spend eternity never truly connecting with anyone. I called you primitive, she thought. But I was wrong. You're free in ways I'll never be. You can fail and rise again. You can be imperfect and still be worthy. I've never had that. More emotions swirled between them. Tay's determination, stubborn and unbreakable. His humor, finding light even in darkness. His capacity for forgiveness, for second chances, for believing that people could change. And Ilara's own hidden depths. Her curiosity about other species that she'd suppressed. Her secret admiration for beings who struggled and overcame. Her longing for something real, something that mattered beyond duty and tradition. Why did you really challenge me? Tay asked within the merge. Ilara's answer came with painful honesty. Because you frightened me. When I saw humans, I saw something that challenged everything I'd been taught. You're messy and mortal and flawed, but you have something we Luminari lost long ago. Passion, purpose, the drive to become more than you are. We frighten you because we're not perfect? No. Ilara's presence wrapped around his thoughts. You frighten me because despite your imperfection, you're beautiful. And that means maybe perfection isn't the highest achievement. Maybe it's the struggle itself that matters. Tay felt something new flowering between them. Not just understanding, but genuine connection. He saw Ilara not as an alien princess, but as a person trapped by expectations, yearning for freedom. And Ilara saw Tay not as a primitive human, but as someone who carried impossible weight with grace and humor, who turned suffering into strength. I didn't choose this betrothal, Tay's thought was gentle, but I chose to fight for it. Not because of duty, I fought because I wanted to prove something. What did you want to prove? That we're worthy, that humans deserve a place among the stars, that we're more than our mistakes. He paused. But somewhere along the way, it became about something else. What? Tay showed her a memory from the trials. Ilara watching from the observation deck, her glow shifting to concern when he was hurt. The moment in the medical bay when she told him to rest, and her voice had been soft instead of cold. The way she looked at him after the trial of spirit, like she was seeing him for the first time. It became about you, he admitted. About showing you that we're not so different, that maybe somehow this impossible betrothal could become something real. Ilara's emotions swirled with confusion, wonder, and something that felt like joy. You have feelings for me? Even after I insulted your species? Even after I tried to make you fail? You were scared, Tay said simply. I understand scared. And yes, beneath the princess and the perfection, I see someone I could care about. Someone I might already care about. The merge pulsed with a new emotion. One that neither of them had expected. Possibility. I've never felt a connection like this, Ilara whispered. In 300 years, I've never felt truly seen. But you see me, Tay Kim, all of me, even the parts I hide from myself. And, Tay asked nervously, and I see you too. Your fear and hope and stubborn determination. Your capacity for love even when it hurts. Your strength that comes from accepting weakness. Her presence grew warmer. You ask me if you have heart. Tay, your heart is the most powerful force I've ever encountered. It shines brighter than any star. The merge began to fade. The hour was ending. But before they separated completely, Ilara shared one final thought. I was wrong about humans. I was wrong about you. And I'm glad to be wrong. They both opened their eyes. Tay and Ilara sat across from each other, hands still touching. Both of them were shaking slightly. That was... Tay couldn't find words. Intense, Ilara finished. Her glow was a brilliant gold now. I've never felt anything like that. She stood up, still holding his hands. I must make my judgment before the coalition. Tay's heart sank. For a moment, he'd forgotten this was a trial. Right. The judgment. They walked together to the assembly hall. Thousands of aliens had gathered to hear the verdict. Hana and Wu stood at the front looking worried. The coalition leaders sat on their platform. Princess Ilara walked to the center. She released Tay's hands and turned to face the crowd. I have completed the trial of heart, she announced. Her voice carried through the hall. I have merged my consciousness with Captain Tay Kim. I have felt his emotions. I have seen his truth. The hall was silent. Tay held his breath. My judgment is this. Ilara's glow intensified until she was almost too bright to look at. Captain Tay Kim possesses the greatest heart I have ever encountered. He burns with love, hope, and determination. He carries the weight of his entire species and refuses to break. He sees beauty in broken things and believes in second chances. She turned to look at him. More than that, he has shown me that strength is not about being perfect. It is about being genuine. Humans are not perfect beings, but perhaps that is their greatest strength. Ilara removed her crown. The gesture shocked the assembled crowd. A Luminari princess never removed her crown, except in the most sacred moments. Captain Tay Kim has passed all 5 trials, she declared. But more importantly, he has shown me that humanity deserves its place among the stars. Not because they are perfect, but because they strive to be better. Not because they are powerful, but because they are persistent. She walked to Tay and placed the crown in his hands. I challenged you because I didn't believe a human could be my husband. I was wrong. I didn't believe a human could be my equal. I was wrong again. I didn't believe I could feel connection with someone so different from me. I was wrong about everything. Tay stared at the crown in his hands, then at Ilara's face. What are you saying? I'm saying that this betrothal was an accident, but perhaps it was a fortunate one. She smiled, and her whole body glowed with warmth. I'm saying I would like to learn more about you, Tay Kim, about your species, about what it means to be human. A courtship period? Tay asked hopefully. Yes. We will learn about each other's worlds, and perhaps... She hesitated, vulnerable in a way she'd never been before. Perhaps we can build something real from this accident. Tay handed her crown back. I'd like that. The assembly hall erupted in cheers. The treaty was signed that very day, granting humanity full membership in the Galactic Coalition. Later on the observation deck, Hana and Wu watched as Tai and Ilara stood together by the window, looking out at the stars. Think they'll make it work? Hana asked. A human and a Luminari? Wu smiled. They're both too stubborn not to. Very human of them. Below them, Tay pointed at a small blue planet visible in the distance. That's Earth, my home. Ilara's glow shifted to a curious blue. It's beautiful. Will you show it to me? If you'll show me your world. Deal. She moved closer to him. Tay, why didn't you give up? In any of the trials you could have stopped. Why didn't you? Tay thought about it. Humans have a saying. We didn't come this far just to come this far. We don't quit when we're close to something worth having. And what's worth having? He looked at her crystalline beauty and the genuine warmth in her glow. A chance. A future. Connection with someone who sees me as I really am. That's worth fighting for. Ilara's form shifted to a warm golden color, the Luminari equivalent of a smile. Perhaps I have much to learn about humanity, about fighting for what matters, about choosing passion over perfection. And perhaps I have things to learn from you too, Tay said, about patience, about seeing the bigger picture, about not always having to struggle. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Two very different beings who had found understanding through challenge and struggle. "Thank you," Ilara said quietly. "For what?" "For showing me that different doesn't mean lesser, for teaching me that the most beautiful things are often imperfect." She looked at him. "For being brave enough to be exactly who you are." Tay smiled. "Thank you for giving me the chance to prove it." Somewhere behind them, Hana nudged Wu. "They're going to be impossible, aren't they?" "Absolutely," Wu agreed. "But they'll be impossible together. That's got to count for something." And in the vastness of space, aboard the Eternal Harmony, a human and a luminary princess began writing a new story. Not about perfection or power, but about two people choosing to understand each other. Choosing to build something real from an accident. Choosing love over fear. The beginning of everything.